Hi, so in my cold room today, I just wanted to talk really about 80-20 running. When I do some of my masterclasses, my free masterclasses, one of the things that I get not accused of, but people go, yeah, I get what you're saying. You're into 80-20, and I'm an 80-20 endurance coach. So, I'm not against the idea or principle of it. But what I struggle with is seeing runners get hold of this idea and then they're not getting results with it. And they're like, 80-20 running doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And what I want to share in this video is if you're finding 80-20 running has plateaued your results, or you feel that it has, I want to share in this video why it may have and what you can do differently and what the roadblocks possibly are. If you're finding 80-20 has worked really well, this will probably help you in the respect of making sure that it continues to help you if you are following that type of running. I'm not going to do a video to demonize it. I think the devil is often in the detail. And that really brings me to where I am with 80-20. You get people saying, 80-20 is about doing a lot of zone 2 running. You need to do lots of easy running, get the intensity right, and only 20% of your overall workouts are speed workouts and all this, and then people find that they don't get the results that they want. And as a coach, I often feel like I'm playing devil's advocate the whole time with my runners, because at the end of the day, it's where are they on the continuum? Because if you're working on a 5-zone system, I was talking to a runner the other day that just onboarding with me, and I was just saying that the zones we use aren't things. So if I pick this spoon up, this is a spoon and it's a physical entity, and if I so wanted, I could put it in a wheelbarrow. You cannot actually put zones in a wheelbarrow. They are a mental construct. Why is this important? Because they are a guide rail. I heard the term that zones are not an on-off switch, they're like a dimmer switch. So they're like, so it's not like you turn up or turn down. And as a coach, I often say the running plan is the map. It's not the actual territory, it's a guide. And the zones are the dimmer switch that you're using to navigate that plan. So the devil's advocate bit comes in is that I get a runner and they're mostly 80-90% are doing their easy runs too hard. So because of that, I am going to be encouraging them to do more easy runs because that's where they are. That's what they're doing. But imagine I had a runner come in, and it's rare, but I've got one runner I've got in mind at the moment where she will do a lot of her easy running too easy. It's very rare, and sometimes wasn't perhaps pushing enough in the upper echelons of her higher intensity stuff. So the dim switch needed to be turned up, needed to be doing more of those intensities because all of the zones work. You'll get all this thing about zone 2's good for fat burning, mitochondria, and all the science behind it. But what you've actually got to look at is the evolutionary stimulation, really. I'm a simple man, and I like to keep things fairly simple. And whilst I can't look inside someone's body, I can understand the evolutionary process for us as a runner. So, for instance, for the most part, you might be walking around, evolutionary speaking. Then you may have to kind of cover more ground. So you might be running what we would call zone 1 and 2. You might pick the pace up a bit if you were in a bit of a rush. If you were being chased or you were chasing prey, then you would pick the speed up. So you would be utilizing all these zones quite naturally, some more than others. What you don't use, you either lose or diminishes. So really what we're looking at when we're talking about zones is we're talking about an evolutionary stimulation. So what have you used, what have you not used, or what have you abused? And that, by knowing that, and this is why when runners come on board with me, we have a plan creation, because at the end of the day, we want to know what's been abused, what's not been used, and what needs to be kind of really enhanced. But overall, everything needs to be enhanced. Now, obviously, from a marketing point of view, that's awful. And this is why, particularly on YouTube, you'll get somebody saying, oh, you've got to do all your runs in zone 1 and 2. Give it a name. And I'm as guilty of that. I've got my perfect pacing method. But what I will say about that is that incorporates the dimmer switch idea. The magic behind that isn't the thing in itself, it's personalizing it to that person. So the big thing to really understand with zones and getting 80-20 right is whatever you do, you want to avoid the boom bust cycle. So the big thing about making sure runners do their easy runs easy is basically they reduce the risk of getting injured. If they reduce the risk of getting injured, then they're going to be out more frequently. Frequency is, by all research, the biggest indicator of success. Now, what you do with that frequency obviously is important. But for instance, if a runner comes to me and says, this is what I've been doing for the last 4 months, and they haven't done, say, any speed work, and you've just got a standard training plan, and the training plan's got do 6 reps for 30 seconds at high intensity zone 5, then the likelihood that if you just throw that runner into that run, that something's going to go twang, and that's a non-technical term, and they're going to be injured and they're going to lose their frequency is pretty likely, because you're not meeting. You need the stimulation to be in front of the runner, but not so far in front that the body goes, what the heck are you doing? I call this the journey of the mind and the body. So the mind can travel a lot quicker than the body can. So imagine now, if you're in a safe space, if you closed your eyes and I said to you, imagine being on a beach with the sun shining on your face and the sand between your toes. Your brain can imagine that. Your brain can go back mentally into the past and look at things and analyze them, and so that you don't make the same mistakes again, though in a lot of runners' cases that isn't true. But that, or you can project into the future and plan and do all those things. This is why we are the primary species on the planet. The problem with that is, in running terms, is that your brain can be here, your body can be here. So you need to close that gap. So you need to have a process that is going to take you, your brain wants to be here, your body's here, that's the gap. What is the process that takes you there? 80-20 can be a very elegant way of getting there, as long as you understand that it's not just about getting that absolute perfect mix. What it's actually about is saying, okay, where are you now? So like when we coach, we're like, where are you now? So we have our discovery phase, and we look at that, and we look at the cycles that you've already been in a lot of cases, boom bust, where runners are like, they have an up and then they have some sort of bust. It can be an injury, a plateau, and then the cycle starts again, and runners don't always notice that this is happening. A goldfish doesn't know it's in water. So you're looking at that and you're like, well, this is where you want to go. This is what's been happening. What do we need to do differently to stop that boom bust cycle and then kind of get you going where you want to go? So that might involve a lot of zone 1, 2. It might involve some speed work, but what have you done in the past? And it might be that for you, it's a lot of zone 1 and 2, perhaps with some kind of strides in. Simple, very simple accelerations, nothing too fancy. You don't have to go and find too many high level kind of workouts on the internet or anything like that. So for me, what you need to do differently is become good at self-coaching. Now, you'd appreciate that as a running coach, I'm like, yeah, come to me. But a lot of my trainings I do, like the Marathon Maximizer, the email course, my masterclass, it's a live free masterclass I do. And one of the things that I often say in that is, really everything I'm sharing with you is you've got two routes. If you don't feel that you can perhaps do this on your own, or you want to accelerate the direction you take, then I can help you, kind of guide you through this process. But if you want to go on your own and you feel you've got enough self-awareness and enough discipline to do it yourself, then everything I share is a self-coaching framework. The discovery, develop and dominate 3 steps it's a self-coaching framework. It's a framework I use to coach, but it can also be a self-coaching framework. If you are that lone wolf, then you can utilize that. But I think to finish the video, the challenge is for most runners is they're looking for certainty, and there is none. There is none. I have processes and I have ways, guide rails of explaining what I'm doing so that runners have faith and have hope that they're moving forward, because people need that. But what I really have is the flexibility and the adaptability to understand that not one size fits all. There are general rules, but until you meet a runner sometimes, you're like, well, I'm going to do that for you, but that not for you, because it's an input-output game. What's the input? What's the result of that input? What's the output? And too many runners don't actually look at that. And that's one of the things I share in my masterclass, how to gauge your own inputs and outputs. But if you're interested in the masterclass or the the Marathon Maximizer, my email course, I'll have some details below. But hopefully this has helped. This is not about rubbishing 80-20. It's not about rubbishing anything. What is there to rubbish? What I'm saying is, if you're not getting results with your training, particularly if you're doing 80-20, maybe you need to stand back and just kind of become a bit more self-coach and go, okay, what is the frequency? Where am I now? Where's the discovery phase? What's my boom-bust cycles? What are the things I keep on doing that keep on putting me in this negative cycle? What do I need to avoid, and what do I need to engage with more to get the results I want? Hopefully this video's helped. Anyway, bye for now.